is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path.
First reading. A reading from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 11, verses 32 to 40. Brothers and sisters, what more shall I say? I have not time to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, of David and Samuel and the prophets, who by faith conquered kingdoms, did what was righteous, obtained the promises. They closed the mouths of lions, put out raging fires, escaped the devouring sword. Out of weakness they were made powerful, became strong in battle, and turned back foreign invaders. Women received back their dead through resurrection. Some were tortured and would not accept deliverance in order to obtain a better resurrection. Others endured mockery, scourging, even chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, sawed in two, put to death at sword's point. They went about in skins of sheep or goats, needy, afflicted, tormented. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered about in deserts and on mountains, in caves and in crevices in the earth. Yet all these, though approved because of their faith, did not receive what had been promised. God had foreseen something better for us, so that without us they should not be made perfect. The word of the Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Saint Mark. Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the sea, to the territory of the Gerasenes. When he got out of the boat, at once a man from the tombs who had an unclean spirit met him. The man had been dwelling among the tombs, and no one could retain him any longer, even with a chain. In fact, he had frequently been bound with shackles and chains. But the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles smashed, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the hillsides he was always crying out and bruising himself with stones. Catching sight of Jesus from a distance, he ran up and prostrated himself before him, crying out in a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." He asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "Legion is my name. There are many of us." And he pleaded earnestly with him not to drive them away from that territory. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there on the hillside, and they pleaded with him, "Send us into the swine, let us enter them." And he led them, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine. The herd of about 2,000 rushed down a steep bank into the sea, where they were drowned. The swineherds ran away and reported the incident in the town and throughout the countryside, and people came out to see what had happened. As they approached Jesus, they caught sight of the man who had been possessed by legion, sitting there clothed and in his right mind, and they were seized with fear. Those who witnessed the incident explained to them what had happened to the possessed man and to the swine. Then they began to beg him to leave their district. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed pleaded to remain with him. But Jesus would not permit him, but told him instead, "Go home to your family and announce to them all that the Lord in his pity has done for you." Then the man went off and began to proclaim in the Decapolis what Jesus has done for him, and all were amazed. The Gospel of the Lord.
My dear brothers and sisters, and my dear children, as we read in the Gospel, we find the first exorcism performed by Jesus Christ in pagan territory, the territory that was not belong to the Jews. And even here we too find a man possessed by the evil spirit. They say it's legion of unclean spirits. The point here is that they recognize who Jesus Christ is and they bow down. Jesus expels them. And as we read in the Gospel, we find that the evil spirits enter a herd of swine. And then they get drowned in Sea of Galilee. Then we find that the people who are there, the locals, they ask immediately to leave the territory. They ask Jesus to leave the territory. My dear brothers and sisters, we find Jesus exercising his power, the power of God. This is the point of the story. And it's here that Jesus reveals who he is, that he is the Son of God, that he has the power even to expel the evil powers. Dear brothers and sisters, just reflect. Even in ourselves, we find sometimes in our day-to-day living disturbed, so many problems that we face, confused at certain moments, in sinful states, sometimes tormented by the guilt of the past, sometimes inability to do that we have to do, what we wish to do. And then sometimes we have a fear of our future, sometimes living in lifeless situations as we feel sometimes. And then also, there can also be moments where we'll feel that Jesus is at distance. Well, this is the experience of yours and mine at these moments. The only power, the only one that we need to arrive is to Jesus. That we go to Jesus in our prayer, in our reflection, dear brothers and sisters. Even in our prayers and even in our reflections and in deep meditation, we really feel how Jesus is entering our lives. We can beg our Heavenly Father to liberate us. Well, we have gone through these experiences, dear brothers and sisters. We need no miracles to experience the power of Jesus in us outwardly, but inwardly we feel how Jesus is liberating us, how Jesus is living in us. He is living. He rose from the dead and he is living in us. And when we receive the Eucharist, we really feel the power of his strength in us, dear brothers and sisters. So let's keep on praying. Let's keep on reflecting and meditating. Jesus will always expel all the powers of evil in us. May God bless you all.
Wachanayano.